Welcome to Just Asia, HRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. Indonesian protesters attacked by police and parliament staff in North Sulawesi. Mathura violence illustrates need to rebuild India's justice system. 2 girls burned alive in Pakistan. Thailand denies rights to victims of human trafficking. LRC urges the Human Rights Council to initiate the re-engineering of Asia's justice institutions. Urgent appeals from the Philippines and Sri Lanka. Welcome to HRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Jessica Fernando. We begin with Indonesia and the police attack on a peaceful public protest organized by the Indonesian Student Christian Movement on June 1st at the Manado Parliament Office, North Sulawesi Province. Mostly university students, the protesters were calling for professionalism by parliament members and the prosecution of parliamentarians involved in the illegal drugs trade. The protesters were then invited to a dialogue with some of the parliamentarians. In the plenary room, the students requested that the chairperson of the parliamentarians should also attend. While they were waiting, the students were suddenly attacked by police officers. Along with the civil service police unit and local parliament staff, the police brutally kicked, beat, and dragged the protesters out of the room. Once outside, they were attacked by tear gas and continued to be beaten by the police and staff. 5 protesters were hospitalized and 1 was taken to the emergency unit. To learn more, Just Asia caught up with Mr. Ainul Yakin, a human rights lawyer with the Indonesian Legal Aid Foundation.
Ya apapun itu alasannya, yang namanya kekerasan tidak bisa dibenarkan. Terlebih itu dilakukan oleh kepolisian yang notabene-nya adalah aparat penegak hukum, seharusnya memberikan contoh yang baik untuk mengedepankan tindakan-tindakan kekerasan apapun. Terlebih, polisian sudah punya aturan, yaitu peraturan Kapolri tentang implementasi hak asasi manusia dalam tindakan-tindakan atau dalam tugas-tugas yang dilakukan oleh kepolisian harus mengedepankan prinsip-prinsip hak asasi manusia. Sehingga peristiwa kekerasan yang terjadi di Manado itu membuktikan bahwasanya pihak kepolisian masih belum memahami betul soal prinsip-prinsip hak asasi manusia dalam menjalankan tugasnya, serta menunjukkan bahwasanya tindak tanduk kepolisian dalam mengemban tugasnya masih belum berubah.
Moving to India, an encounter between the police and a semi-religious cult left at least 29 dead in Mathura, Uttar Pradesh on the 2nd of June. The dead included 2 senior police officers, a superintendent of police, and a station house officer. The police were attempting to enforce a high court order to evict members of the Azad Bharat Vidhik Vaicharik Kranti Satyagrahi, who were illegally occupying Jawahar Bagh, a public park, for more than 2 years. Initially, the group had sought permission to stay there for 2 days. Subsequently, the group occupied the whole park and converted it into a fortress out of reach of the law enforcement agencies. Enjoying political patronage, the cult was able to carry out clandestine activities despite local opposition and various police cases filed against its usurpation of the land. Violent attacks were made on those who tried to enter the park. The Mathura encounter comes on the heels of the Pathildars movement in Gujarat and the Jat movement in Haryana, both violent movements by caste communities to address injustices, whether perceived or real. All these instances expose how political parties nurture the ambitions of these groups for their petty and immediate political interests, with no intention of addressing them. It also underlines the unwritten agreement among the political class of keeping the police as its uninformed henchmen of the regime rather than impartial law enforcers. The Mathura violence is yet another reminder of the need to build a justice system that places a heavy and deterrent cost on crime and allows justice institutions to do their job. In Pakistan, a country that proudly claims its place in the nuclear club with the world's most powerful states, there have been 2 recent cases of girls being burned alive. On 29 April, 16-year-old Amber was drugged and set on fire on the orders of an illegal jirga for helping her friend elope in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province. Her charred body was found in a Suzuki van. The brutal attack was meant to teach a lesson to girls in the area and prevent the incidents of love marriage. On June 1st, 19-year-old Maria Sadakat was burned alive in Punjab province for refusing to marry her suitor, the son of a school principal who had employed her as a teacher. Maria was attacked on her return home from school. The principal and his accomplices tortured her before setting her on fire. She sustained 85% burns and later succumbed to her wounds at the Pakistan Institute of Medical Science, Islamabad. According to the local police, the girl identified 2 of the 5 attackers, and the police claim to have arrested 2 suspects. Not only are these 2 incidents horrifying in their nature, but they also indicate the complete collapse of the rule of law in Pakistan. Without fear of effective law enforcement to punish such crimes and protect the rights of ordinary citizens, perpetrators in Pakistan walk around freely, terrorizing innocent persons. Moving to Thailand. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha pledged on June 6th to speed up investigations into human trafficking cases, most of which involve government officials. Speaking at an event held to mark the National Human Trafficking Awareness Day at Government House on Monday, Prime Minister Prayut acknowledged that since 2014, the number of human trafficking cases had increased, and thus investigations should also be speeded up. Statistics provided by the Social Development and Human Security Ministry indicate that there are about 150 human trafficking cases, and 34 government officials have also so far been punished. Among those implicated in trafficking networks are government officials, police, local politicians, and military officers. Rights groups have expressed their concern about human trafficking in Thailand, particularly as the rights of victims have been reduced by the government and the court. Victims staying in government shelters, for instance, cannot access legal assistance. In some cases, the government did not allow the victims to even meet with their lawyer. In the court, meanwhile, judges said that the victim cannot be a co-plaintiff with the public prosecutor. For more information, Just Asia speaks to Mr. Papop Siomhan, coordinator of the Anti-Labor Trafficking Project.
The problem and the obstacles of helping victims of trafficking to access to the justice is that, first point, lack of knowledge of law enforcement officers who are working on subjects of human trafficking. As you know that trafficking case is challenging case, the traffickers are influential people, and they are always hiding the evidence to protect themselves from the prosecution. So, if the law enforcement officers, especially inquiry officer, doesn't have enough skill and knowledge to deal with human trafficking case, they might not see the whole picture of human trafficking case, and they will dismiss the case, not the human trafficking case. The second point is that the participation of victims in legal process. The judge already strict and has some different perspective in the issue of the position of the victim of trafficking in the court procedure. Now, the judge recently dismissed the statements of victim become a co-plaintiff because the judge said that the trafficking charge is an offense against the state. It means that victims are considered as the witness and cannot demand the compensation.
The Asian Legal Resource Center urged the United Nations Human Rights Council to initiate the re-engineering of Asia's justice institutions in the 18 written submissions it made to the 32nd regular session of the Council. The human rights body has completed 10 years since its inception, after having been transformed from the erstwhile Commission of Human Rights. The ALRC, which holds general consultative status of the United Nations Economic and Social Council, emphasized that the United Nations Human Rights Council needs to review its rights mechanism, considering the victims' requirements of the protection in today's global context. There is a need to assess the success and failures of the UN Human Rights Mechanism, the ALRC said in its interventions. Written statements were submitted on Bangladesh, Indonesia, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Thailand, containing analytical information on the capacities of the justice mechanisms in these countries. The statements focused on several mandates, including the special rapporteurs on independence of judges and lawyers, on the promotion and protection of the right to freedom of opinion and expression, on the rights to freedom of peaceful assembly and association, on violence against women, its causes and consequences, and on extrajudicial summary or arbitrary executions. To learn more, Just Asia interviewed Mohammed Ashrafuzzaman, who officially represents the ALRC at the United Nations.
the sister organization of Asian Human Rights Commission, the Asian Legal Resource Center, as an organization having general consultative status of the Economic Social Council of the United Nations, participates in the sessions of United Nations Human Rights Council and other forums, particularly to emphasize on the priorities that the global human rights experts should concentrate more. For example, according to our experiences in Asia, basic institutions that are obliged to uphold justice in most of the Asian countries, with exceptions like Hong Kong, Japan, or South Korea to a certain extent, the justice mechanism in all these countries don't function. And any discussion about protection of people's rights will be meaningless if the justice institutions do not function properly. And these institutions include also the policing system, which is run according to the wish of the executive authorities of the country and the political institutions of the country. So, if the policing system, the prosecutorial system, the criminal investigation system, and the infrastructure to conduct fair and unbiased credible investigation is not part of the discussion of protection of rights or upholding justice, then it's a bit incomplete discussion. So from the Asian Legal Resource Center, we are trying to consistently raise these issues to the UN platform, so that the independent human rights experts of the United Nations Special Procedures of Human Rights understand the reality beyond the perspective of the European or the Western functional democracies and rule of law system, and the realities of the Asian system, and at the same time the UN human rights mechanism should adopt certain effective programs that may ultimately help the governments in Asian states to rebuild their justice system.
Finally, Urgent Appeals Weekly features two stories from the Philippines and Sri Lanka. In the Philippines, an indigenous community was harassed by members of the 23rd Infantry Battalion in Agusan del Norte, where soldiers opened fire at a couple who ran away from their home in fear. Since 28 April 2016, the Higao non-ethnic minority has been harassed due to conflict between the armed forces and the rebels. And in Sri Lanka, Ms. Pushpakumari Hunukumura was slapped by the officer in charge of Peradeniya police station when she refused to come to a settlement against the perpetrator who assaulted her. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.